Plungeroo is a really interesting hybrid of pinball, golf and snooker, where you're tasked with trying to take the pinball and place it into the shot inside the pinball table to make it drop through a hole. Now, the way how you do that is by rotating and dropping in various different pieces of pinball furniture so that you can guide the ball off of various different bumpers and chutes and warp holes and flicking switches, all of that kind of stuff, across just over 70 levels across 8 different environments. Each environment drops in at least one new mechanic for you to have to contemplate and consider. And whilst the tables largely are quite small and compact in the way how they're designed, you're given lots of different ways to trip yourself up as you try to unpick exactly how the furniture and the pinball cabinet setup needs to be so that you can then guide the pinball into the right place. There are 2 things I want to call out about why I love Plungeroo. The first one is around when you complete a level, it's really satisfying. And that's because as you're playing with the mouse, you kind of pull back and release the pinball into the cabinet, and it lights up everything and makes lots of sounds as you bounce around all the bumpers or switches or portals or whatever it is that you're doing, for a really satisfying conclusion to the level. It reminds me, and this is a very odd reference, if everyone ever watched the TV show Catchphrase and it unveiled a square on the big board and it went doodle-doodle-doodle-doodle-doodle-doodle, it's like that, but in pinball fashion. I'll show myself out. The second thing that I really love about Plungeroo is how it constantly drip feeds loads of different mechanics, but doesn't then feel the need to throw them all into every single level. It kind of picks and chooses and rotates them all around. And what this does, because the levels are quite concise and short, you think, oh, well, this isn't ever going to get particularly difficult. But what it does is it drops enough of a couple of things in that it gives you lots of permutations to consider. And so you're trying to logically work out where you're going to send the pinball to get to the exit. And this starts to become really apparent from about World 5 onwards, because by then you've got portals that you'll fly in one end and pop out the other, but it's trajectory based, so you need to work out about which route are you going to fall in to fall out of. You've then got switches that will flick once you've rolled over them and they're pointing right. They'll push you to the right, but now they'll push you to the left the next time you roll over them. And then you've got bumpers that might be attached, but they're not singular bumpers. They might be a collection of bumpers that you need to rotate around into the right position. And there might be gaps in between them. So then you're almost figuring out how to put in the bumpers like a jigsaw puzzle so that they work themselves, as well as giving you the right conclusion of where you need to go to. So it can become quite tricky on just a few key mechanics. And so logistically, you have to kind of unpick where you're going to send the pinball in your mind, and sometimes the levels give you quite good help with that because it will drop in some stuff that can't be moved. Other times it's entirely up to you and you're thinking, crikey, actually I could go quite wrong on this very easily. Wonderfully, Plungeroo also has a really great progressive hint system, and this is the third thing that I want to kind of shout about as well. So if you get stuck on any of the levels, there is a button in the menu that allows you to unlock them all, which is great. So if you get stuck on one in particular, you can kind of skip over and continue on with the rest of the game. But by using the hint system, it gives you where 1 or 2 of the pieces of the furniture that you need to drop in need to go. And sometimes that's enough to then point you in the right direction and you can unpick things from there. But you can keep on going if you really wanted to then show pretty much the entire solution if you're getting really, really stuck but you still want to complete stuff. It only tells you where things need to be put though. So if you still have these kind of things where you've got like flicking switches or rotations of bumpers that kind of spin around and stop at a different angle, you still need to get all of those right. So it never gives you the full solution from about World 5 onwards. You still need to have some kind of thought process behind it. But it gives you so much of a steer that it makes the hard work way, way easier for you, but in a way that you can control, and I think that's a great way of doing a hint system. I love this game. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Really unique vibe, carnival atmosphere, intrinsically tricky puzzles that require logic to complete, and like laying your own path in front of you, but in a way that makes sense because it's quite succinct and therefore doesn't feel too overwhelming until you start to think about all the different possibilities that you might run into. But because the levels are quite tight, often you don't find yourself totally stuck. It's just a matter of manoeuvring things around and kind of going, okay, let's try this element of it, and you'll kind of be able to work your way backwards from there. Thumbs up from me, written review over on higherplayinggames.com. This one, I think, is a little sleeper hint for the puzzle fans out there. Go grab it. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network, a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/higherplane-network. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.